Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, an updated NFL mock draft, top 10 only, following the Dexter Lawrence trade to Cincinnati, getting the New York Giants the number 10 pick. So who are the Giants going to take with that pick? Well, you'll just have to scrub forward to find that out. Noonan, Connor, and Scott Smith got it all for you. I will return on Thursday evening, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Me, Cuss, Jeff, live NFL draft watch along here on Mayo Media Network. So turn on the subscribe button or the notification button. That's the one. After you hit subscribe and smash the like. Noonan, Scott, and Connor are actually going to be live on Mayo Media Network Wednesday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, finalizing all the draft bets, maybe even doing a quick mock, and even taking your questions from the chat. So if you had any draft questions or just want to get in on the convo, Wednesday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. But the big one, two big things, actually. One, we have put together a compilation of every single Cussed Jets rant throughout the course of the past 12 months. From draft to draft, I will be releasing that either on Tuesday evening or early on Wednesday morning. It is a laugh. So you're going to be wanting to check that out. I would recommend watching that one on the video if you're an audio listener right now, because you'll see when everything is, although you can hit the time codes for everything to see when everything was said. But it's just pretty funny to see him ride the roller coaster of emotions up and down for the Jets throughout the season. Remember when Justin Fields was going to be the captain of the greatest show on turf 2.0? Because I do. And if you forgot, you can check out the video because it's wild. Additionally, I think Jeff and I are going to do something about the Hulk Hogan documentary. Probably trying to find a third for that. It's not going to be Cussed on that one. He likes to pretend he knows about wrestling. He doesn't know about 80s wrestling at all. He was like 2 years old. So we're trying to do something on that. We're trying to figure out the best day to do it. Maybe we'll do it for next Thursday to give people time to actually watch it rather than just drop it the very next day. Who knows? Anyway, this is the Mock Draft Show. Hit the time codes if you want to jump around. And again, 2 p.m. Wednesday, 8 p.m. all Eastern Time, Thursday night to get some live shows in you. I'll be making my return from vacation then. All right?
At Mayo Experience.
Hello and welcome to Move the Line, presented by 4for4 Bets. Ryan Noonan, Connor Allen, Scott Smith, back with more NFL draft discussion coming off of newsworthy trade. Connor, what's going on with you? How are we doing today?
Yeah, not much. This is an awesome week. It's like I just have all the different sportsbooks pulled up basically the entire week. Don't get enough real work done, this week, but make plenty of money, and it's a good one because those odds are moving like crazy. News is coming in. All these like insiders are like starting to quote empty the notebooks a little bit here. So it's exciting times.
Yeah, I love that they put the because it's been a lot of time early in the week on golf. It's Zurich Classic. It's a team event, no data. It's just the worst betting fantasy tournament of the year. It's perfect timing. Allows us to concentrate and hone in on all the draft stuff this week. Scott Smith here as well. Scott, what's going on, my friend?
What's real work? The stuff that y'all are speaking of.
No idea.
Yeah, not for us. Yeah. Oh, well, we had a noteworthy trade. If you didn't check out our Friday show, highly recommend taking advantage of that. You probably need to chip away at that one. It's a full, solid 2.5 hour full mock draft. Extensive breakdown, thought process, if this, then this, for pretty much the entirety of the draft. We maybe turned the screws a little bit when we got to like the last 5 picks, but for the most part, it was, but hopefully a lot of takeaways for you. And if you've not checked that out, please do so. Again, 4for4 Live on the YouTube channel where you can find that. To Move the Line, wherever you listen to podcasts, we'll be back again on Wednesday, TBD on the time, but we start to solidify those final mocks. The last news that we get here in the 48 hours leading up to that. Exciting times and hopefully great betting opportunities for us as well. So we'll kind of do what we've been doing. We'll kind of hone in a little bit here, I guess, on the top and what's happened here. Obviously, if you probably not tuning into this, if you didn't know that Dexter Lawrence was traded to the Bengals for the 10th pick, and you now have the New York Football Giants sitting at 5 and 10. A lot of speculation with what they'd like to do with that. Discussions of them trading up. What do they do with the first spot? What do they do with the second spot? Creates kind of an interesting dialogue. So do you guys want to walk through kind of like just a top 10 mock? I guess we can get our, our Arvell Reese, David Bailey quota in as well. Make sure we cover that properly. we're all kind of along the line there, I think. But Fernando Mendoza 1. I think this is an Arvell Reese 2 panel here. But I'll let anyone, Scott, if you want to speak up, if you have anything that's come from what you've heard in the coming days or past days since we've last met.
Yeah, everything that I've heard has been sticking with reset too. I don't think there's any movement. As a matter of fact, when you start seeing some people do mock drafts and start bringing in Jeremiah Love into the mix, like they're actually talking about Bailey maybe even sliding a little bit, which I don't see happening either. I think 1, 2, 3, and is going to be Mendoza, Reese, and Bailey. I have some trepidation and some little bit of reserve judgment as to whether or not Arizona will be making that pick at 3 for Bailey. I think Kansas City, to a lesser extent, and New Orleans are teams that would be in play for David Bailey. I just think David Bailey fits what New Orleans would want and what Mickey Loomis has done in the past. So I think there's some live action possibility for New Orleans to move up to get Bailey at 3, as much as what Arizona is noted to want to move down. I'm not really buying into the recent Jeremiah Love news and information that you have popping up that they may be player for him or seriously considering him. The same way we talked about Arvell Reese and David Bailey maybe being, thrown in a mix to get the Cardinals to move up or another team to move up. I kind of think that's what's happening with Jeremiah Love. I think Jeremiah Love is going to be in play at 4 on down, but I don't see him at 3. So right now I think 1, 2, 3 is Mendoza, Reese, and Bailey.
Connor, we were vibing last night. We didn't know it at the time, but I'm looking at all like the news that was coming out and some stuff that was going on over the weekend. And there's all these people that want to trade down. It's like, they're Cardinals want to trade down. And you look at the Commanders, they don't have a lot of day 2 picks. They would love to trade down. The Browns love to trade down. The math ain't mathin'. And you had the tweet basically where it was like, hey, we have all these teams that like their option A is they would trade down. Well, you need a dance partner, and there just don't seem to be that many dance partners that are looking to trade up in a class that seems to be considered pretty flat, right? Like you just have this, the narrative around like, hey, you can just get this like really safe. We're talking about like, again, non-premium positions being picked a lot in this draft. It's not like a superstar draft that teams are trying to like jockey for getting to the top of the board. We continue to hear that that's next year, which looks like you probably have a good quarterback class. You get some wide receiver prospects, but you never know. Every year it's like next year's draft is better. But was kind of with you with like this scenario where there's a lot of teams looking to move back and we don't have enough that are looking to move up.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's Kansas City, Dallas. I think Scott brought up maybe Miami pre-show. Maybe the Jets move up from 16 to get a wide receiver if they fall. So I like, yeah, it seems like the outs moving up seems pretty thin, and a lot of these teams want to move down. We're at 2 right here, and I think kind of circling back to that real quick. Yeah, I mean, Schrager did stick with him at 2. Breer like didn't really stick with him. He's basically was just like, I mean, he wrote like a super long column. I would assume that was written like last Thursday or whatever, and was like basically submitted. And it was very much like David Bailey. It was this exact same stuff we've been hearing. David Bailey's the most pro ready, and he fits his team. Whatever, blah blah blah. Todd McShay already flipped. DJ has been extremely tentative. I mean, these national insiders are going to flip to Reese, I would say, any minute. At this point, I would be flabbergasted if it's not Arvell Reese. There's like minus 400 right now on FanDuel. Bookmakers like minus 300 Reese. Like 1 or 2 more insiders flipping, and this is going to be like minus 1,000 probably.
It's teamed up even. I mean, there were minus 185s or so yesterday, beating a lot of different spots. 175, and we've already moved.
There, I mean, even today on Kalshi, there was like, it was minus 400 on FanDuel, minus 300 bookmaker. There was some like 62%, which converts to like minus 160-ish, that kept being posted. So I was just sitting there clicking. It was like $50 at a time. So it was just like every time we would pop like 62 or 63 cents, I would just start clicking more. Because again, I just don't think we're going to see this number anytime soon. So I'll put him here in the mock. But then Scott's point here, so like 3 is something we certainly need to talk about here too. So like outside of the Giants stuff, I mean, do you think like, so start from the top. There's like, if Reese goes 2, which we do think he does, I think there's a consensus mostly that this would be Bailey at 3 or someone would trade up for Bailey at 3. But now we've gotten reports from, I mean, basically every big insider in the last couple of days has said that there's like some push within the building, and some people have gone as far as to say it's the owner. It's like Michael Bidwell, who took over for his dad 5 or 6 years ago, who passed away, and saying that he wants Jeremiah Love. And so it creates a tricky situation because this is like a legitimate scenario that happens, and the owner just, I mean, he is the final say at the end of the day. So that's not traditionally how the Cardinals have operated. I think that they've mostly stayed out of business and they've mostly stayed out of things like that. But again, like this is one of those scenarios where all the logic says to trade down or David Bailey, and they say, no, we're going to pick Jeremiah Love because the owner says so.
Yeah, a few thoughts. I mean, before they restructured the James Conner contract and re-signed Tyler Algier, I thought that like Jeremiah, I think in my 1.0, I put Jeremiah Love to the Cardinals because my thought was this is a GM that is kind of there's like tenuous situations where they make coaching changes, but they don't make a GM change. GM hasn't really landed the plane that well. So you feel like he's on pretty shaky ground. He probably would want the guy that's probably a plug and play best chance for them to be viable in year one. That probably could be Jeremiah Love. I also think it's become very clear in the month or two since, and again, they made some moves to solidify the position, is that you have two teams right behind you that very clearly are interested in Jeremiah Love. Right? The Giants have kind of been out there with Jeremiah Love. We're getting that drumbeat from the national beats that cover the Giants closely. And then the Tennessee thing too, which is, trailing back to the combine. So like if you are the Cardinals, even if it's not true, this is silly season still where like you could benefit from floating interest in Jeremiah Love. That might not even be a GM owner pitting against. It's just like, hey, just toss us out there and see if we can move back at one or two spots. Could even be that.
So I think this is interesting for betting purposes too, right? So like, I think that there's a scenario here where they go with, I'd say it's most likely Bailey, right? Like one way or another. I would say that's like, I'm like 75%. I think it's Bailey. That's where I'm at. But there is, I think, worlds where either Jeremiah Love goes 3 or I don't know. I mean, do we think Francis Mauigoa is like in play at all or not really?
I tend to think not. Tony Pauline and a number of other analysts and evaluators all seem to have the same thought process, is that none of these tackles are worth being picked at 3. I think the majority of the mock drafts you see that have Mauigoa there at 3 are being basically connected through essentially a trade down scenario, because that's what we've been told that Arizona wants to do the most is trade down, address the right tackle, gain more picks, move back in for Ty Simpson and build that way. That's what makes the most sense to me. And that's where I think while Mauigoa is a fit, I just don't think he goes at 3.
Perfectly said.
That's fair. Yeah. And so we talked about like the lack of trade up partners. I think what could get interesting is if the Cardinals trade back with Kansas City or with Dallas, like I think that they're live to trade back up again, like they did 2 years ago. And that will create like, it wouldn't be that expensive to go from 12 to 6, like with Cleveland, or 12 to 7, something like that. If they did want to lock in Mauigoa, and they would still get enough capital to probably trade up to get Ty Simpson. So I think that would help, I don't know, inflate the market. It would just bust every single bet. It'd be just a complete disaster from a exact pick standpoint. But I think that's possible. I don't know. I did play some David Bailey number 4, like a little bit, like sprinkle. It was like, I don't know, 5 to 1. And I did play some Mendoza, Reese, Mauigoa at like 11 to 1. I don't know if I like those as much as I did, like, I don't know, on Friday, basically, kind of when I started sprinkling them. But I do think that there are outs for David Bailey to get to 4 potentially, and I think he'd be the pick there. I don't know how you guys feel, but I think if it was not Bailey at 3, that he would almost certainly be the pick at 4.
Who's going 3 in that spot though?
Love.
You're saying that, okay.
Love. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, that makes it easy because it feels like then Love feels like the one that's been in consideration a lot, and that tracks, right? You want to kind of give your last year number 1 pick a little bit more of a offensive bump next to him. That would make some sense too. So yeah, it feels like it's going to be a tough year to mock. And there's just, you can't hit those home runs in the top 10 where it gets a little bit easier. It starts to get real cloudy when you get a lot of trades in here and things start to trickle down and get wonky quickly. So I'm with you. I think David Bailey as a stay and pick play still really makes the most sense, feels cleanest. Totally agree with Scott. I could see them liking Maui Noa and want to make that pick. Don't see them sitting and doing it at 3. So then you have the Ty Simpson stuff too, right? Where it's like, how can we grab more capital to come back in late and make that move if that is something they in fact want to do?
There's one other thing too on the Love stuff. Like, I feel like we see from time to time like this kind of dynamic happen, and like this is like, I mean, this almost to me kind of feels like a little bit like the Genty stuff last year, where the Jags drafting Genty didn't make a whole lot of sense, but by close, it was like even money. Like, it was like basically he was a favorite in most mocks. He was going 5, not 6. And I think the Raiders had kind of like thought that was going to happen. Now it feels like the same, where the Titans have been the favorite all the way. It seems like they're going to pick him no matter what if he's there. And I mean, now maybe the Cardinals decide to do that. And I think by most accounts, the Jags were actually going to do that. But like all the national insiders were like, hey, you know, the Jags going to do something crazy. That was like kind of the first step, which happened like a couple of weeks ago with Jeremiah Love. Then it's like, oh, you know, they might step in and draft him. So I don't know. Maybe 70% on David Bailey was too strong. Maybe I'm a little bit less than that the more I talk about it. But it's like the steam is rolling right now for this. So
the one thing I think you have to ask yourself, you look at how many of the national guys have reported this over the last 2 days, and it's almost like it's just propaganda in a sense. I start to wonder because of how many people have floated it, and if that was what you wanted, why are you not keeping that a little bit closer to the vest? I just think the amount of people reporting it kind of throws up a little bit of a red flag to at least be cautioned with it.
1,000%. You got 2 teams that have made it very clear that they're interested. Like, why wouldn't you float it? Like, you know,
And look,
you want him,
if I had to
him.
spin a mock right now, it's going to be David Bailey at 3. But I think that, and like I'm sure you guys are the same. Like, I'm starting to I have my final mock and I'm like making changes to it and like, you know, going through that. I have David Bailey in there, but I don't know. I'm more open to change, but I think
it's just something that you're keeping your ears to. Like, you're looking for like a few of the right people to go ahead. Now, you know, you start to see Wednesday, you see him in Daniel Jeremiah's mock, you see him in, you know, Schrager's mock and a few other guys that we trust, and it's all aligned, then I think there's fire there.
Yep. I tend to agree. McShay is just all over the place. I mean, he goes from one extreme to another. He said last week, like, David Bailey heavily leaning there. And now he's like, it is Arval Reese. Like, it was not even like I'm hearing. It was like, it is Arval Reese at 2. Now he's saying 3. He said, if the Cardinals stick and pick, they're drafting Jeremiah Love. It wasn't like they're leaning that way. Again, it was like, maybe it's just McShay being quite extreme. Very possible. But the definitiveness I thought was interesting. I say let's go with Bailey. Probably makes the most sense. But I think we're all probably doing that anyways, right?
Agreed. Look, I mean, I pushed back on this a little bit last episode too, and like, I don't mean any disrespect. These guys obviously have connections that are different than what we have. These guys also do submit mocks. These guys also do submit mocks. They get graded, and like, you know, it's not like it's flawless, right? So like, there are plenty of misses. They are more likely to be leveraged as mouthpieces in the greater scheme of things and what teams are trying to accomplish than necessarily given the correct answer. Now, it doesn't mean that they're not sometimes given the correct answer. They don't have an inside source that is trusted, but things happen. And one thing that could be really clear can shift if someone makes a trade ahead of you, right? And it's just a domino effect of how this is. So even though like there could be directionally correct at times, they also could be wrong in the final test. So you got to stay head on a swivel. All right. In this scenario, with Bailey going 3 to the Cardinals, Jeremiah Love is available for Tennessee. Scott, are you giving consideration to anything other than Jeremiah Love in this scenario if it goes with Reese Bailey 2-3?
There's been some chatter that somebody in that office will bang the drum for Sonny Styles. I think Sonny Styles is a clean player. I just think when it comes down to it, you look at both the offensive coordinator and Dable and Saleh, and their shortcomings at each of their last stops have been offense. You look at the quarterback, I think he still needs some pressure taken off of them to develop. You look at this running back draft and how depleted it is and how big of a gap there is between Jeremiah Love and everyone else. And we've talked about it. Like round 2, you want a linebacker, CJ Allen, Jacob Rodriguez. Like some of these other guys are going to be there in round 2, and the gap between Jeremiah Love and the rest of these running backs is much wider than the gap between Sonny Styles and some of these other linebackers. So I feel comfortable with Jeremiah Love. It's who, unless I see something drastically change, is probably going to be my pick here for Tennessee at 4.
Connor, how about you?
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I mean, like as of now, I feel pretty decent on this 4. I think this is like a pretty good kind of start to 4 here. And I felt good about 5 until recently, which we can get to. But I mean, I think you're in the same bucket here as Ed Love as well, right?
I am. Yeah, I feel like I feel good with this 4. It's going to really take something, unless like a trade happens beforehand, where like this isn't my top 4, I'd imagine, between now and submission time here.
Okay, what if, like Scott said, like it almost feels like the Genty stuff. What if like Schrager, Jeremiah, and like some other big name all had Jeremiah Love going 3? Would you switch or would you stick?
Oh, I mean,
like we're close to trending that way. This is the problem. This is like we're gonna have some tough decisions to make.
Look, I feel like in this competition, when you're like, again, we're trying to make bets and we're competing in mock draft accuracy competitions. Like, I'm not a doubles guy, right? Like, just swing for the fence, right? Try to land the plane and get it, like trust your gut. So sometimes there's some benefits to knowing that the masses are going to be switching, and it feels a little thin. Then holding the line. So I'll probably hold the line here on Jeremiah Love.
Scott, would you I'm gonna ask the same question to you. Would you switch or would you stick?
I'm pretty heavy towards Love being the pick here at 4. It's gonna take a lot. It's gonna take like the main beat reporters plus the national guys. Like it's gonna take a very heavy bit of information from multiple sources to swing me off.
Yeah, we would need like a weird news report for me, like some sort of like, Jeremiah Love closed on a house type, you know what I mean? Like something that's not even like beat reporter mock draft stuff, like something that was like a little bit next level. That would make me want to take him a different
a homeless man stopped Michael Bidwell on the street and told him he had to draft Jeremiah Love to save the city.
Correct. Something that's a little bit off kilter. This is where we get wonky. New York Giants 5, they've had the 5th pick. That's not new, but now they have the ability to kind of figure out what they want to do. Apple 5 and 10 now with the Dexter Lawrence trade. 5, to me, I think I'm kind of locked in on 5, but like there's this weird drumbeat of not just receiver at 5, but like Jordan Tyson at 5, which, I don't know. I mean, people don't love Carnell Tate, Scott. Tyson's got a lot of question marks. Feels like if he was maybe a cleaner bill of health, that would probably be a discussion that we had been having every week on the show. But he didn't and doesn't. But appears to have tested pretty well, and he hosted a private workout and again didn't test, but like ran routes and showed out pretty well. So, what do you do with the Giants? Kind of talking both here through 5 and 10, and the wide receivers and offensive linemen and Sonny Styles and Giants at 5, Scott.
So I feel locked in that it's Sonny Styles. I think whenever you just break down the Jordan Tyson saga, 2 weeks ago, you had people mocking him to Pittsburgh, to the Jets at 16, like falling down. We talk about the talent that he has, but there is some holes and some warts within his profile, specifically when it comes to the injury stuff. Carnell Tate has been thought to be a cleaner, safer prospect, while Tyson may have more upside. I just think his agent has done a phenomenal job within the process of this last 2 weeks with him not getting in a full athletic profile, through combine, running a 40, things of that nature. And look, when it comes down to it, did you expect him to have a bad workout? He's not going to go out there and have a bad workout. These things are scripted, they're choreographed, they're set up to put it in as good of a light as you can for a player like Tyson. I think what they have done is they have solidified him as a top 10 pick. But I think, looking at him here at 5 and then looking at his expected draft position, which sits at 16, looking at Arif Hassan does a phenomenal job with the big board that he puts together. I think it's 103 different analysts who have their top 300. And looking at that, on the big board, he's 14. Daniel Jeremiah has him under Omar Cooper, even I think at like 18 or 19. So I think the truth falls somewhere in the middle to where it's not 5, but it's not necessarily like 20. So I think you see him more in the line of, if he's there at 10, I think he's more in line for the Giants. If something happens, say Carnell Tate falls past and the Saints go with Carnell Tate at 8, then you have Jordan Tyson as an option for the Giants there. I think the Giants made this move with 3 to 4 players in mind. I think Sonny Styles feels like the clean prospect, especially with them trading away Dexter Lawrence and what the holes are in that defense as far as stopping the run. And then you start to look at the defensive tackles that are probably going to be at the top of round 2 as well. I think Styles is the cleaner prospect, safer prospect. I think he's the pick at 5. I think they want some combination of whether that's Tyson, Caleb Downs, or an offensive lineman there at 10. Those are what makes sense to me. I think Styles is probably going to be locked in for me as that pick there for at 5 to the Giants.
Starting something new is terrifying. I remember right before launching this show thinking, what if no one listens? What if it completely flops? And that's something that has persisted every time that I hit record and go to edit a show, even as I'm recording this right now. It never goes away. But taking that leap ended up being one of the best decisions I ever made. And honestly, having something like Shopify back then would have made it a whole lot easier. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses. Whether you're just getting started or scaling up, you can build a clean, professional store with ready-to-use templates that actually match your brand. No coding headaches. And it's not just a storefront. Shopify's got built-in AI tools to help write product descriptions, improve your pages, even upgrade your images. Plus, you can run email and social campaigns right from the platform like you've got a full marketing team behind you. That would have been great like 15 years ago, not gonna lie to you. Best part, everything lives in one place. Inventory, payments, analytics, so you're not juggling 5 different tools to run your business. It's time to turn those what-ifs into with Shopify today. Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/PatMayo. Go to shopify.com/PatMayo. That's shopify.com/PatMayo. The change of seasons always gets me locked into that mode where I want to clean everything up, completely locked in, house, schedule, all of it. And this year, I realized my finances actually needed that same reset. Let Monarch do your financial spring cleaning for you. One dashboard that gets your entire financial life organized. No more clutter, no more mess, no more scattered logins, just accounts, investments, properties, and more. All in one place. Get your first year of Monarch for half off, just $50 with promo code PatMayo. For me, the big eye-opener was seeing my cash flow laid out. I thought I got everything dialed in, but Monarch showed me that wasn't so much the case. My savings rate had quietly slipped while my spending crept up. Happens. Let's get that fixed. I can do that with Monarch. Just fixing that got me back on track. Weirdly enough, my favorite feature turned out to be their weekly AI recap because it flags anything weird, spikes in spending, changes in net worth, so I'm never out of the loop on my own finances. Monarch isn't just tracking, it actually helps you plan ahead and stay accountable. Use code PatMayo at monarch.com to get your first year half off, just $50. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code PatMayo.
Connor, where are you at on this this whole Tyson noise? And this is again, kind of the loudest drumbeat in the space right now.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting because it started last week before the workout, and it was kind of like, all right, he's having the workout. A lot of teams are coming. One team in particular is doing extra research on him. It's the Giants. They apparently brought basically everyone there. It was reported that the GM was there. Apparently everyone went to go there and to have dinner with him after. So they went. They did that. Like the day after, Peter Schrager and Daniel Jeremiah on separate shows said they love Jordan Tyson. They really want him. That could be at 5. It could be at 10. That's basically what it was left at last week. Then you have Adam Schefter coming out today on a show saying, yeah, like they really like Jordan Tyson. They want Jordan Tyson. Could be at 5. Like that's like, and this is like been now consistent from 3 to 4 to different spots. Is this from Jordan Tyson's agent? Maybe. That's definitely possible. But if it's true that they like Jordan Tyson, there's a very good chance they're not getting him at 10. Like I have bet a couple times Jordan Tyson 5th overall exact at like 8-1. I think it might be LCLV. It might be losing closing. For those of you who do not watch the regular show during the season, it's losing closing line value. It's something that Noonan and I joke about where we take a bet that is like, say, 100-1 MVP and he closes the season at like 10-1 and you don't win anything. You get a lot of closing line value, but you don't win anything. So
feels good though. It's like
it feels good.
Nice
Yeah,
warm
it feels
blanket.
good.
Yeah.
Can't pay your mortgage with losing closing line value. But I think that he's kind of live there. 1, 2. I think the odds are going to go way down here in the next like couple days. Like this is going to be like 2-1, 3-1. Alongside Styles here pretty quickly. So I don't know. Like at first I was like, I don't think that makes any sense. But it's just been like a hard drumbeat from like most different analysts with like slightly different angles. And you said it before the show, and you mocked Carnell Tate here first. Wan'Dale Robinson's gone. Malik Neighbors not starting the season. There's
Darnell Mooney and Darius Slayton. I mean,
yeah,
it's and Mooney. Like it's tough.
It's a bunch of bums. Like how is your offense supposed to function when you don't have like, I mean, you can't pass the ball with those guys. Like, you just run it every play. Your defense sucks too. So like, you need some playmakers. Maybe it's Styles. I mean, it could obviously, again, doing a mock today, submitting Styles, but I'm very interested in this progression here, and I'm betting it. So like, I think that's kind of like, I don't know if it's like hedging the mock is the right word, but like kind of like, I mean, hedging some of like the chaos scenarios in the betting markets with my mock, my most likely mock, which I think is Styles, but I don't know. It's coming loud right now. This is like all day. It's been nonstop different quotes and things. Schrager went on a show today, some New Jersey show, and like an hour ago, and was like, I'm putting Tyson at 5 right now.
The only reason it makes some sense to me is, to Scott's point, is because it's, if nothing else, it's solidified our thoughts of where maybe Tyson is for other teams. And he's just very not likely to make it to 10. And it's just kind of that simple. Like if they want him, and knowing that they are probably not going to get Styles at 10 either, but if they are still very much open to like offensive line, well, yeah, they're still going to get an offensive lineman at 10. But if you want to come out of this with Jordan Tyson, you can't get cute and hope he falls to 10. You'd have to take him. So that's the only reason I'm even kind of open to it. I 1,000% think it should be Sonny Styles. I think it will be Sonny Styles. Again, you talk about coming in like, we want to run the football better and we want to stop the run. Those are 2 problems for us last year. You trade Dexter Lawrence, Scott, then like you create a big gap in the middle of that defense, and you have a pretty porous linebacking crew too. Styles makes a ton of sense.
I don't understand. We talk about there not being enough dance partners to move up. Look, the Giants sitting at 10 are in striking distance to move up with a team in Cleveland at 6 that we have heard is desperate to move down and may be willing to do it at a discounted rate. If
they have to part with 2027 picks to do it though, because the Giants don't have a ton of capital. I think they don't have a 3rd rounder. They're missing some stuff.
I just look at it and I think it's doable. I think a team like Cleveland, look, they're going to roll with Shador and give Shador every opportunity to hang himself. And I think a team like Cleveland would be open to 2027 draft capital to go in, have a better chance at getting their quarterback of the future in a heavy quarterback draft in 2027.
Yeah, I meant like, would the Giants part with 27 capital?
I just think, I mean, if you're that high on 2 players, and whether that's a Caleb Downs, whether it's Sonny Styles, or whether it is indeed Jordan Tyson here, I think there's a way to swing it and draft at 5 and draft at 6 and get both of the guys that you want. And for a guy like John Harbaugh, who I trust as a coach, I think he's essentially the guy that's going to be making the decision. There's some rumblings that Joe Schoen could be very much out and fired after this draft. I think you come into Detroit to New York with the media that you have there, and what bigger splash to make as coming into that, that environment than moving there. And look, you're going to win over the fans really quickly by making a move like that. I'm open to it. I think if they are as high as I've heard on Styles and the drumbeat for Tyson's happening, I think it's a possibility, especially when you have a team like Cleveland, who is rumored to want to move down. And we have these issues of teams wanting to move up and down, but maybe not necessarily having the partnership. But if the Giants are as high on both of these players and Cleveland wants to move down, it's a trade marriage that I think could make some sense and should be monitored, or at least explored.
I have two last additions here real quick too. One is there's been some unproven source rumblings in my DMs saying that this is, again, some confidence in Tyson going 5. Again, I put basically zero stock in those until they start getting reported big time. This is last week. I'm like, yeah, whatever. No, I'm not listening to this. And then I'm like, oh, well, maybe, that's kind of interesting. So that thought was, worth noting. And then another person in the space, I'm not going to say who, but they posted on their, they're not traditionally a tout. They're traditionally a draft analyst. They posted behind their paywall that this is their favorite bet of the entire NFL draft. Was Tyson 5 exactly. And I confirmed that these two people do not know each other before the show, because I was curious about that too. I'm like, did you get this from this person? And they're like, no, I don't even know them. So again, there's these small tidbits of smoke, and then national. I always say this is anytime I hear something, I put a little stock into it, but not really much. Maybe dabble, maybe $20, $30, it's fine. But then it starts picking up national steam, and then you're like, okay, that could actually be real then. That's kind of what where I started to see smoke is fire. So I know we spent too long on this, and I've been yapping for a while. But
the origin of the show today, we wanted to go long here, so we're good.
It's interesting on these guys here. So mock today, putting Styles, but I'm open to switching. I'm more open to putting Tyson 5 here than I love 3, I would say, at this point.
I agree with that. I agree solely because if they definitely are clearly Jordan Tyson wide receiver 1, that just seems really clear that they're not getting him at 10.
The other thing, there have been whispers in the last 24 hours from some national media guys that the Giants are actually maybe interested in moving down off of 5.
Oh.
So
this is great.
Could they be enticing a team like Washington, who's supposedly high on Styles,
right,
to move up? Washington has no draft capital. I don't think they're going to make a deal within the division.
Yeah.
So, or is there another team, whether that be Dallas or, whomever, but, there are rumblings that they might want to move down. And if it's only a couple of picks and they can still nab Tyson, who knows?
Updated odds, by the way, real quick. Bookmaker just reposted everything. And then for those wondering, Bookmaker takes $1,000 a pop and then removes, and you can rebet it. So pretty good sentiment of the sharp betting community, I would say. Second overall, Arvell Reese is out to -400. Third overall, David Bailey -240. Pretty hefty. Which is that's a big
way off domestics. Yeah, that's still finding a lot of plus money. David Bailey at 3.
Yeah. Jeremiah Love down to +475. So it's basically just them two, and everyone else is kind of, cooked out there a little bit. And then fourth overall, Jeremiah Love -175. Again, that's also a good bit off domestics.
Mm-hmm.
Fifth overall, Styles +140. And then Love +400. So there's there's 5 guys under 10-1, 6 guys under 10-1 for the Giants here at 5. So Styles the favorite, but +140 is, I would say, significantly less convincing than a -175 for Love or any other one. So thought that was interesting because the odds have been more confident in the exact mock that we basically just laid out.
Yeah. The last thing I'll note on the Giants is that Joe Schoen and the Giants have, over the last 5 drafts, they have met with their first round picks. For those that are kind of like interested in it possibly being Maui Noa, I have no meeting of them with Maui Noa if he's going to be in consideration there at 10. So they've met with Styles, they've met with Downs, they've met with Jeremiah Love, Cornell Tate, and then we just talked about Tyson. So I think that at least does put him in the mix.
Yes, I would put Styles for now.
Yeah,
But if you want to
fine.
put like, look, where you had it beforehand, just before you even click Sonny Styles, there were 10 guys in the screen in the little, in the mock draft little spot here. And you could sell me on 7 of those 10 at the time, basically going, 5th. Like, I don't think maybe like Lemon, McCoy, or Ruben Bain are going 5. Like, I don't think Mansour Delane's going 5, but like, you could sell me on that. Like, the Giants are kind of all over the place. So, all right. 6, Cleveland, first of 2. We know Cleveland wants to move down. Again, I think Nick referenced it on the Friday show. I think it was Dane Brugler. 2 things he knows confidently. Fernando Mendoza is going 1, and Cleveland wants to get out of 6. Okay, so like, who's coming up? What do we do with 6 here, Connor?
I kind of think they're going to go with the tackle here. The more that I lean into this, I think it's going to be Fano or I've seen some people talk about Monroe Freeling. I kind of think I'm probably going to have Fano in there.
Okay. So we were betting some plus money, basically first offensive lineman. That's not Mayo Noa. I think we're going to get plus money on that still.
Yes.
It's gotten smaller. It's gotten smaller, but it's still plus.
Yeah. And I think you can bet Fano. Well, see, the problem is the Browns are really ripe to trade down. I think they're actually probably because the Browns, I think because they're so analytically oriented, I think that they take less to move down, which I don't know. I think that they just understand the exact values of everything really well. And so they don't need to feel like they got some massive win or a bunch of picks or anything. They're just following whatever trade chart they have. They've traded down a couple times in the past. And I'm like, that's a shitty deal, but that's just because I'm not that deep in the weeds on trade value stuff. But again, 6 to 12, they would, I think I was reading that's like a third or something like that. It's nothing. It's which in my mind, I'm like, that's not worth it. But it's something the Browns would do. So I did sprinkle a little bit of Fano 6 exact. And I think that was, let's see here. It was 4 to 1, 5 to 1, something like that. Yeah. 4 plus 460 right now. So I don't know. I mean, where are you guys at on them? Are you going with Tate here or because it seems to be most of the insiders seem to be hinting towards it's going to be offensive line.
Yeah. Where are you at currently, Scott?
I think you have the most outs with offensive line, specifically with Fano. I think Andrew Berry is very analytically oriented. There's going to be more data points on Fano compared to Maui Noa. I think people view Maui Noa strictly as a right tackle, and I think Cleveland wants a little bit more of somebody who can play left, and that would tend to be Fano. I think even if Cleveland does move out of 6 and say the Chiefs want to get ahead of Washington or New Orleans or some of the other teams, I think Fano still has an out to Cleveland if they move down as well. So I'm probably right now leaning towards Fano being matched here to the Browns, just because I think he's the player that has most outs, no matter if they stick and pick or move down a little bit.
Kind of agree with that too. I think there's been enough, even from early in the process, of Fanu just being a guy that they like. Again, the one thing they do is typically draft young, and they draft Raz guys, and that's been Cleve TA's point in the Cardinal Tate stuff the whole time. Is he's again local, pushing back on a lot of the Tate stuff he sees come across his timeline. I think because again we don't have a full athletic profile on Tate, and Tate hasn't been this young breakout candidate, and he's just not checking a lot of the historical Barry boxes that I think they're looking to have checked. So I agree, they're probably a trade down candidate. I think they'd probably love to do both and still land Spencer Fano, but I'm okay with that too. I think that's probably how I would mock it right now too.
All right, let's roll with Fano then. I think that probably makes sense. Seems like we're kind of in lockstep there.
Yeah, what's our best money on Fano for first offensive lineman? Probably at least 2.25 or something like that.
Yeah, hold on. I'm looking. See if I can find anything here. First O-line. plus 275.
Hmm.
It's not bad. I mean, I don't mind that. I mean, it just seems kind of like a toss up at this point. Like everyone's adamant that Mayo is going to be the first offensive lineman drafted because it feels like a lot of the scouts are like leaning on like, well, he's the best prospect or whatever. But I feel like that all goes out the window unless you have like an exact pairing that is going to hit. Like you can tell me Mayo goes like 12 or 13. I wouldn't be like that surprised, I guess.
Yeah. One of them has a back injury that we know about. Like, if you're
Yeah.
splitting hairs and everything that they're close and not, again, well-respected, O-line grinders think that Vanu is the clear tackle one. I don't know. I just think I'm kind of with you. Like maybe maybe Mayo should probably be the favorite, but it should be probably closer to 50-50.
Yeah, like maybe minus 120 Mayo, like I don't know,
Yeah.
plus 150 or plus 175 on Spencer, like something like that. I don't know about anyone else here. Also, too, we talked about how the Cardinals like primarily only met with those top 4 guys, Mayo, and then like Love, Reese, whatever. I looked into it more, and it looks like they did meet with Ian Nachor and Proctor. There might be one more, but I think those were the guys. So like if the Cardinals did trade down, like I kind of thought like, oh, they're definitely gonna, come back up to get Mayo. Maybe that's not the case. Like maybe they'd move down to like 12 and I don't know, take Proctor. I guess it wouldn't be that crazy, I guess, if they really liked him.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes some sense too. All right, Scott. Washington, 7 here. I think they would love to get Sonny Styles. I think they'd love to get Jeremiah Love. In this scenario, both of those players are off the board. They do have the ability to select a receiver. And again, this is another one of the teams that we know because their lack of day 2 draft capital would love to trade down. As the board stands here, what do you think the Commanders do at 7?
So I tend to think that Washington's very high on Sonny Styles. If Styles makes it to here, or even if Jeremiah Love were to make it here, I think they run that card up. Earlier today, I was on the Established Run podcast. We do our yearly mock that we do over there, and the great Ben Standig, who's been one of the top beat reporters for Washington for years. I had the pick. I made the pick as Carnell Tate. I think Washington's done the most work. Ben is of the opinion that Washington wants to trade down and that, they're big into trading down. That's their top priority right now to kind of get some extra picks. They only have 2 picks within the first 2 days, so no second round pick. The name that he mentioned in trade down, and specifically the team that he mentioned in trade down, he thinks Washington could swap right there with Kansas City. That's only moving back 2 picks. It's not going to take Kansas City much. They'd be able to hold on to that second first-round pick that they have and not really have to exchange much draft capital. Washington would be able to pick up an extra pick. And he pointed towards Mansour Delane as possibly being a pick at 9 if Washington were to trade down. And the points that he made is that Kansas City would be enticed. It's a small price to pay to move up. If they're high on Jordan Tyson and Jordan Tyson is there, they're jumping in front of the Saints to get Jordan Tyson. If they're high on Bain and want to move up and get Bain there, they can get Bain. Or even if it is Mansour Delane that they're high on, I don't know if Washington was high on them and knew that Kansas City was high on them if they would necessarily move. But the option is there, and I think it makes a lot of sense whenever you think through the exercise of Washington and Kansas City possibly swapping. I've heard that Kansas City doesn't quite want to pay the price of what it would take to get to 3 with the Cardinals, which makes me think that New Orleans is more enticed as a team to possibly move up to 3. But the small jump, 2 spots just to jump in front of the Saints, who have some of the same needs and same player desires that Kansas City does, makes a lot of sense. So for me, if Washington is sticking and picking, it's going to be Carnell Tate, because I think they've done the most research on, and just meeting with wide receivers. You have Brandon Ayuk being kind of the worst kept secret in the league right now. He wants to play to Washington, probably going to end up a June 1st cut for San Francisco and that bad breakup that they have going on. But I think either of those players make the most sense. The only drawback I have with Mansour Delane is he has the 8th percentile arm length, which kind of draws down his RAS a little bit. But look, he tested well. He's versatile, plays well in zone or man. So either of those 2 players make sense to me with Washington's primary objective being to move down and gain some extra draft capital.
I think too on the Ayuk stuff, I think that they can actually keep him until September 1st if they really want to screw him over. Like, and then
It is a bad breakup.
It seems bad.
and if I'm them and if the reports that came out are true, basically that he's like didn't rehab and like just was a total bum and like wasn't coming into the facility for no reason, I would certainly do that as well. So I don't know. I think he'll end up in Washington, but it almost seems like if he isn't rehabbing well and didn't hasn't played in a long time, like I don't even know if you can bank on him being much of a contributor this year, even though he is a very good football player when he's healthy. So yeah, I would go with Tate as well. We're looking at he's plus 375 right now in Bookmaker to go 7th, the highest or the lowest odds. So I did
Again,
sprinkle a
though,
little bit of that.
It gets real wonky if they are looking to get out of that, right? And that's Kansas City. That's
who would Kansas City want to trade up for, Scott? Like what?
I mean, it could be the most recent drumbeat that I'm hearing is that they really want to address this offensive line. I think Bain is in play. I think Mansour Delane could be in play. I think Fano could be in play, and Jordan Tyson. It's one of those 4 players to me. I think Kansas City would like Bailey if Bailey was more feasible to obtain, but I just don't think they're moving up to 3 to get him. I think you're going to see Brett Veach and Andy Reid come together and grab a player. I tend to think it's Delane that they would move up for, just because the gap between the cornerbacks is so wide right now with the injury stuff with McCoy. And if Tyson is as much as what everybody is saying he is, I could see him as well if they're going to move in front of the Saints. That would be the player that would probably make the most sense, would be Tyson if they're moving specifically in front of the Saints.
The Mansour Delane stuff to the Commanders from a schematic situation tracks the same way that we made the Mansour Delane to Cincinnati discussion, last show, because they drafted Mikey Sanders still to play in the slot. He played in the slot at Michigan. He's like 5'8" with very tall spikes on, right? Like he's just not like he's a dog, but he's limited to play in the perimeter, and was forced to play in the perimeter last year. I'm sure they would love to move him back in the slot. I think Trey Amos was a really nice 2nd round pick for them last year, and you kind of lock in perimeter corners. Everyone gets to play in their correct position by adding a Mansour Delane on the outside. So that tracks from a football standpoint for me. So I understand why Standing is there too. Tricky spot with what to do. So I don't know what you want to do with the mock. The Caleb Downs thing, I will say that same way. I kind of don't see that here. Scott, do you kind of agree too with Caleb?
Yeah.
Downs?
So the reason I don't see it with Downs is that Adam Peters has drafted the highest average RAS scores of any GM since he's been picking the last 2 years. They just signed Nick Cross in the offseason. He's definitely going to be starting at one position. And then you have Quan Martin, who I think they still have a lot of hope for. And then they have some other safeties that play in 3 safety sets and things of that nature. I just don't see the elite trait. As much as we hear behind the scenes that GMs love the evaluation on Downs, I just don't see it being worthy of this high of a pick. I think you can even argue about if he was who they were targeting, then maybe he's a player that they're comfortable with moving down and getting extra draft capital. I just don't see it being the pick at 7.
Agreed. I mean, I think they like Will Harris and Quan Martin, and you have, they gave the, money to Nick Cross in free agency. Like, yeah, the Caleb Downs stuff doesn't track to me either. It just feels like people trying to say he's going in the top 10 and just finding a home for him blindly in the top 10 versus it being a team fit. And I like the call out on Peterson and the Raz stuff too. So, Connor, what are you going to do mock wise here?
Yeah, I think Tate makes no sense. That's where I have him right now. I mean, also we set up the mock and we kind of get locked into a way here, and it just makes things easier if things go the way that we expect them to. Just for mock purposes, which I'm sure you guys do the same. Cause I always think about okay, well, I've put this guy here. I have no idea what these 2 teams are going to do now because, it just messes up a lot of things. This is I think this is actually almost exactly what I had lined up for my mock. So
and the other argument I'll make, let's say Washington isn't the team making a pick. Look, I think the Jets are live to move up. I don't know that Washington
sure.
would want to move down that far to 16, but I've heard that the Jets love Carnell Tate. They're a little bit out of range to make a play for him right now. But look, that's a team that I could see moving up to 6, moving up to 7 to try to get a Carnell Tate and jump in front. I think the Saints to me are the start, like the ceiling for a lot of like these wide receivers. And I think you'll see a team, if they want to move up for a wide receiver, it's going to be here with 7 to Washington, who will have some interest in gaining draft capital. So, there's some teams that could definitely move into this spot and still target Tate at 7. So that's another reason why I like going with Tate at 7.
Makes sense. 8, New Orleans, tricky. Jordan Tyson still on the board. Ruben Bain still on the board. Feels like those are a couple players the last few weeks we've been honing in on, Scott, for the Saints here. Given the option they have both to choose from here, what do you think that they do here at 8?
I've heard nothing different to this point. I think that the 3 options, look, I don't put it past Mickey Loomis to move to 3. I think David Bailey very much fits the archetype of defensive end, defensive edge rusher that he wants, that would also fit into Brandon Staley's scheme of what he's had success with in the past. The problem is they haven't really moved up without Sean Payton at the helm. So I still think that's an option. But other than that, it's been Bain, it's been Tyson. I've heard a little bit more of Delane possibly being an option as well. But the only other player that kind of gives me a little trepidation about going all in on Tyson here at 8 is that you have the connection of Chris Bell, who by all means would probably be a first-round pick if he didn't have the injury issue. He's got the college history with Tyler Shug. I've heard that the Saints actually do like Chris Bell there as a possibility in the second round. If they're that high on him, if you've got Tyler Shug banging a drum that he wants his guy from college, then I could maybe see them going in a different direction. Maybe that is Bain, maybe that is Delane. But I just tend to think that if teams are as high as what they are on Tyson, the film checks out, the Saints are comfortable with the injury. I find it hard to pivot off of him being a pick here if the Saints aren't moving up to get Bailey and they're sticking at 8.
Connor, where are you at on the Saints?
Yeah, Tyson right now, this is crazy actually. Tyson is only plus 230 to be the 8th overall pick at this point. He is the current favorite on Bookmaker. The next closest is Mansour Delane at plus 428. I'm certainly not betting plus 232 for anyone listening to the show. I think we got in pretty well before on some of this Tyson 8 stuff. Yeah, like some 8-1s, 9-1s, 5-1s when we've talked about it. I think all that's good. Top 10 for Tyson too. Jordan Tyson's slowly becoming the next Arvell Reese for me here. It's, maybe quickly at this point. We'll see how the next couple of days go here. But yeah, I think it would be Tyson based on everything you guys are saying. Plus, I think the odds somewhat reflect that. So that's probably where I'd go. I mean, like the other one that makes sense is Delane to me, but that's about it. Like I don't know if it'd be anyone else.
Yeah, I think it's one of those 3. So it gets a little tricky. I beg of you out there, depending on your style, like the direct exact pick, it's your risk tolerance has got to be really high for these, right? So like Connor's been burned, he doesn't give a rip. His risk tolerance is about as high as anyone that I know. The casuals, if you can get a bet that covers multiple outs where you could be correct and not be pigeonholed to player pick and have really, really good handicapped situations where you read the board really well and you lost because a singular trade happened. I'll just be careful when you're betting those ones specifically. And again, Connor's had some success at it, and I know he's had some painful L's with it too.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And actually, it's something I was telling some normal people, non-community members and people was like, they're like, well, what did you bet? And I sent them my list of like 65 different wagers that I've made at like this draft season, which are like mostly like a lot of repeats, obviously. But like, I'm like, hey, I went really heavy on Reese 2, ACC under 6.5 at like minus 300. Like, I'm never going to tell my friends to bet something minus 300. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to be like, I bet $30 to win 10. Like, what am I doing here? Like, it's like, they don't care about that. But like things like that, I'm like, I bet those like really heavy. And then I sprinkle in some like, some smaller ones like that. Cause you may make 30 of them. All you got to do is win a couple of them. But if you're only making 1 or 2, to your point, like it's probably not the right decision because you're going to be quite upset when, like, inevitably there's going to be some trades.
Right.
I had a Mansur Delane number 10 for like 27-1 from like a while ago that I'm like, oh man, they traded him. Now I'm like, well, maybe, like maybe if they go somewhere else up top, or like maybe they like Delane as like, after downs or ahead of downs. I don't know. It could be all similar. So
Sure.
I was like, all right, well, that could make sense too. So
That's the way to do it.
Gives and
I think,
take.
yeah, I think even without getting like super cute on like thinking team X is going to be taking player Y, like kind of build in some spots where like, hey, this guy's going in this range and his number's way off. Like I think Delane right now at 27, knowing when we know who's picking, like that'd be a great number against, who cares that it's the Giants. So that's the way, in my opinion, to approach those ones specifically, because it can get a little bit wonky. Like, I like a little safer with like team and draft position stuff, over unders.
Yeah.
And then again, you're not going to get the payouts to Connor's point. You're not going to find 27-1s there, but just careful with tracking that specifically. Again, you can have a really good read, cash you a big LCLV because of a nice little trade happening. So I'm good with Tyson here.
Yeah, we'll go Tyson, and then we got 2 picks here. I don't know.
Now, one of the national like drum beats that I am starting to come around to is it just seems offensive lineman to Kansas City has been really, really consistent. At first, to me, it was like, well, maybe they'll do that at 29. Now that they get the second pick, they can get one of those falling. They want someone maybe that can kick to the interior. Like they're kind of, they don't have like a specific need along the offensive line. I think they just would like to add some quality talent. That to me seems like it's just safer for them to pick at 9, Scott, and that seems to be a trend from the national beats that I'm kind of buying it on.
Yeah, early on, and I think when I did my first mock draft, I thought Spencer Fano was a good pick. He's a good fit. There's a connection with the coach over there at Utah. Supposedly, Andy Reid wants to fix this offensive line. If you have Patrick Mahomes dealing with the knee injury and coming back from that, I think it's imperative to go ahead and protect them, even when you're getting some rumblings from Daniel Jeremiah and a few other people saying that they're not totally sold and comfortable with where Simmons is at as well. So I think if it's me making the pick, I believe in building through the trenches, especially when you have a quarterback the caliber of Patrick Mahomes. I think you have to keep him protected at all costs. And this is another team that, they have a second first-round pick where they can still address some other needs. So I could definitely see it being an offensive lineman. I'm tending to kind of go in that direction with maybe Reuben Bain being the player that slides back a little bit. That they pass on. So I like the options of them if they move up being offensive line. And if they stick and pick it, maybe it's offensive line as well. So it just seems like it's a clear need, especially with Patrick Mahomes recovering from injury.
Yeah, where are you at here, Connor? Yeah, I mean, good call by Patrick.
This is a great call here. Yeah, plus 250 Chiefs O-line, because where we've mocked ourselves into, like, I think actually this exact 8 right here kind of penciled in or close. I have Mauanoa going here, but is that a fit? For the Chiefs?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
They don't seem to have like a specific need, the positional wise.
I mean, I think it's a fit. He's going to play on the right side. Simmons will move over to the left. The negative that you're getting on Mayo is the versatility that they don't project him to play to the right. To the left side. And then he's got the disc issue with his back that may, what I've been told is that if it goes extremely bad, worst case scenario, he could miss 3 months with a cleanup and surgery if something had to happen. But he's been playing with it as far as an asymptomatic injury and dealing with it. They don't project him to miss any time. He hasn't had a ton of visits. Let me look, because I think the Chiefs were one of the teams that actually did their homework on him, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So the Chiefs did have a visit with Mayo. It wasn't a top 30 visit, but I think they did meet with him at the combine. So, there is that connection there as well.
It's something I was talking with Dalton Cates about yesterday, because he was like pretty confident that the Cardinals were going to try and trade down, and one of the teams potentially trading up is the Kansas City Chiefs. And we know that the Cardinals also like Francis Mauigoa. And so like number 9 exact with Mauigoa is like 11-1. There's legit 2 outs here. Like there's multiple outs here. Like I so now that we're going through this and I'm like, hey, like I don't think it's not that unrealistic for him to be here. Could the Chiefs like him straight up? Sure. Could this also just be Arizona? That's also possible too. And also take him here. And I'm way more confident of Arizona's on the board that they're going to take him at this point. But I don't know. Like I don't know. I'll probably dabble in it a little bit. I think that's kind of a fun one. But Chiefs O-line is probably the better way to play it.
Chiefs are tough because, I mean, Reuben Bain's still on the board. We've seen that mocked. We've mocked it. Mansour Delane's still on the board. Like, we'll probably would want to mock or consider edge or corner or offensive line, right? Those 3 positions. We're probably going to give the Chiefs 2 of those 3. Just where do they see the value and where do they see the teardrops? Because we talked about, like, questions at corner 2, considering the questions with Gerard McCoy. Like, could you see Mansour Delane just being like, hey, this is the cleanest corner prospect in the board. Let's not have to worry about what happens or who falls to 29. We really want to come out of this first round with, a starting perimeter corner. Let's just take the best one in the class at 9. Like, it wouldn't shock me either. And same thing, like Reuben Bain feels like we've said, a Spags defensive end, right? Going to play a lot. He's going to stop the run. Like, he just feels like he checks a lot of boxes. So the Chiefs are tough for me.
Yeah, and my other pushback that I've kind of dealt with Bain is he's a fit for Veach and Spagnuolo and what they want to do, but there's other players that are going to be there in the second round that are also fits.
It's fair.
Gabe Jackas is almost a spitting image profile wise of what they have drafted in the past. Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Because they haven't hit on those 10 plus sack guys, but I think there are players that are going to be there at edge that is a little bit deeper than what some of these other positions are when you start looking in the second and third round.
Yeah.
O-line's going to be gone by 29. I mean, like there's going to be 8 gone at least.
Yeah. Yeah. It gets super thin. It gets super thin for sure. So yeah, I just think those are the 3 positions and you have 3, top tier caliber guys here. Like again, another spot where I don't think it's downs. And I think you'll see some downs here too. We've talked about how that just doesn't seem to fit.
Downs over 9.5, back to being live again.
Live. We're just bouncing back.
To being live. I'm already hedged out. Like, I mean, I'm soft, but
paper hands.
Yeah. Look, I've talked about how I've hedged. I hedged, I have a lot of downs over 9.5, and my hedge point had some overlap of downs top 10. So I have that overlap. If he hits at 10 to here to the Giants, then I could really skyrocket up, and it would be good for me.
Oh, that's nice. I like that. That's actually a great hedge right now. I don't know. Again, obviously it depends on what juice you got and everything, but I think that's great. Do we want to go Mauigoa here? Unless you guys will have
so.
All right. And then this is it.
All right. Well, 10. Caleb Downs still on the board. Still have Mansour Delane on the board. Reuben Bain, based off of the lone strength of the Giants, kind of being the depth of edge rusher. Feels like a spot that Reuben Bain wouldn't even be in consideration. We gave them Sonny Styles with the pick at 5. Scott, where are you at with Giants sticking at 10?
I mean, if it's here, I think it's Caleb Downs. We've heard so much about Caleb Downs even being in play at 5, to which I have said that I just thought that was too high for the traits and the overall profile that he has, and he hasn't tested. You look at all the other top tier safeties that have been drafted, and I just do not care how good he reads defenses, and if you can put the green dot on his helmet and have him play in the secondary and all the things that he does, it's just not a profile that I feel comfortable with as being up there at 5 or 7 or whatnot. Now, with that being said, does John Harbaugh want to put his stamp on this draft? You get a guy like Sonny Styles, or, say it is Jordan Tyson. Is it Jordan Tyson at 5 because they're comfortable with getting that Caleb Downs here at 10? So I think it's Downs if the board falls this way. I just think you've heard so much, before the Giants even made the trade that, 10 is the floor. 10 is the absolute floor for for downs. And so, for my bags and the positions that I have, this would be the dream scenario for me to make out in the draft. So I like the fit. And we also have some of these other offensive linemen off the board. I think Vega Ioane would be another outside player to kind of look at here. I think he is like the worst case scenario for the Giants here at 10. And I think they're comfortable with a number of different players falling here to 10. And that's part of the reason why they made the trade that they did. But for me, it's going to be Caleb Downs.
Connor, where are you at here with the way the board fell?
I mean, we're going through this. This just makes me believe more that Tyson's going to be the pick at 5 because you're going to get one of Downs or Styles, or I've heard that they like Delane. I mean, Schrager had Delane there at 10 too earlier. And I mean, there's very little chance that they're going to get Tyson, maybe still a chance. And there's a very high chance that they get one of those 3 players that all would be great additions to their defense. So I mean, I hate to compare it to fantasy football, but I think this is kind of an apt comparison of like, if you know that you're going to get one of the 3 guys in a certain tier that you like, and then can get a different guy, maybe you reach for the first one. So I don't know. I think in this scenario, I'm probably going Downs, but I mean, I've put Delane and then Downs at 12, I think in kind of like playing around with things, and that kind of fit nice. I didn't mind that either. I don't know. I think could go either way here, but I would say one of those 2 guys. Or Vega was brought up too. Some people were kind of pushing that a little bit. I tend to think it's a little rich if you have the other 2 guys on the board and if you already went offense, but who knows?
Yeah, it does speak to the original Harbaugh thought of we want to run the ball and stop the run. This again is why we made the point when making the pick at 5 that if they want Tyson, you have too many suitors right behind there. You'd probably have to make that pick. But again, you're not getting Sonny Styles at 10 either, right? Commanders are running that pick up. They're probably not trading back. They're comfortable making that pick. So that's where this gets a little bit tricky. So, or then you open yourself up to Dallas moving up to another team to kind of make it if you pass by. So yeah, this is tricky. Do we see that there's a big enough gap where like Mekhi Lemon is not an option? It's not just they want a receiver. It's just that they're infatuated with Jordan Tyson specifically all of a sudden. Like, are we even considering? I know we haven't heard anything about Lemon, but I don't know if you have anything or thoughts there, Scott.
No, I haven't heard much about Lemon. I've actually heard that Lemon could actually be sliding a little bit, maybe even to the Jets at 16. So I just think, the box of players that we're looking at here for the Giants is going to be, down to the players that we've kind of talked about. And I think they're comfortable with where they're at as far as getting to maybe a handful of 4 or 5 players. And like I said, if it was me, I'd be moving up to 6 so I can guarantee that I'm getting who I want. But, I just think they've thrown a monkey wrench here and things. We just blew up our boards for a little bit and kind of starting over with some of the stuff that they have here and some of the rumors, especially if Jordan Tyson ends up at 5.
For sure. All right, Caleb Downs, Connor.
All right, beautiful.
Tyler Newman was the safety 1 2 classes ago, and they're like, yeah, you know what? Throwing in the towel. Caleb Downs it is. It's just interesting. I'm not saying they're wrong, but it's interesting.
I mean, I don't know. I'm saying it. I don't know. This is a crazy time of year. It's just
you're warming up to Jordan Tyson 5. I can feel it.
Oh yeah, it's kind of cooking. It's kind of just like sitting with me, and I'm like, you know what, maybe. Also, we got a message during the show that Peter Schrager tweeted out, like shrugging emoji over the like Arvel Reese is the
Coach tweeting your boy Connor Hughes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we share the same first name. We do not share the same draft success. He's, but I took that more as like Schrager saying, I don't know. He said on the show earlier, he's like, yeah, for now, Eileen Bailey, but I don't have no idea, basically is what he said. So, I don't think it matters. Still -400 bookmaker. If I can get anything close, -150, I'll just keep adding. I don't know. Bags are packed. Why not?
It's an interesting scenario where Ruben Bain falls out of the top 10, which is interesting. If we think a couple suitors sitting there at 11 and 12, that'd be pretty interested to scoop him up. Anything else we want to highlight here? Obviously, our goal was to kind of walk through the top 10, but are there any player specific, team specific rumors, reports, anything that you have, Connor, that you want to touch on here before we wrap? And we'll go obviously a little bit longer, I imagine, on Wednesday.
Yeah, FanDuel dropped over unders. Vega over under was 16.5 for a little bit. I bet that if it pops up to 15.5, I think the under there is really good. It's like juiced over at 14.5. I mean, that's really not too much else. Just keep sprinkling on some of the exact picks. If you're going to build a portfolio, just keep letting them rip. It's all it takes is one, and you'll be good.
You got to wait a whole nother year for the next draft. So, preaching responsibility for the casuals, but again, just one of these, just one. Scott, anything else in closing that you want to touch on and, take us anywhere?
No, the only other thing is Dylan Thieneman is all over the map, getting a lot of buzz going into this final week. But the one team that I think is maybe primed to make a move is Carolina. I think Carolina really likes Thieneman and would move up. And then, Ryan, your boy, Jacob Rodriguez is starting to get a lot more and more. They're talking maybe as high as 20 to the Cowboys, or that the Cowboys could move down and select him. I think, in the next couple of days, I think Rodriguez is one of the players that's probably going to be cemented into my first round.
Let's go. I think they still find some maybe 5-1s or so to go in the first round for Rodriguez. Actually, the way the board fell for us in this top 10, then you could end up in a situation where Dallas gets an edge at 12. And then I think Jacob Rodriguez is very interesting for them at 20 if they're able to get a Ruben Bain at 12 or something like that. So, again, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, he shouldn't be as long as he is in the first round market. So, all right. Last question. Thoughts on Sadiq? We don't have a lot of, but we find him, I think consensus, Patrick, is that we all find him to be really, really, really difficult to mock. And a resign of the fact that he's going higher.
I think you have outs at 14, 15, 18, and 19. The outside shot is Minnesota. I've heard some rumblings there, but I think those are the teams that would be in consideration. I think if Thieneman is off the board, I think Carolina could give some consideration there. But I have trouble finding a comfortable fit to him. So that's kind of where I stand. I think those are his 4 outs. If they aren't, then I don't know how long the fall is going to last.
Yeah, I have nothing other than Eric DeCosta comment from the other day where he says they want to come out of the draft with multiple tight ends. Again, hand up. That does not guarantee at all that one of those is in the first round. I just don't know where to put the player. So you tell me you want to get a multiple tight ends, I'm going to give you one in the first round because it's kind of in his range to begin with. I kind of want to do some other stuff with Baltimore, but I don't know. Baltimore could be a team to me, Scott. We've talked about it a bunch. They do this every year where they grab Jermon McCoy and he's healthy and he's fine and he's awesome because I think he is awesome. He's just got a lot of question marks and it's hard to take question marks, but that's a fit. They throw him in at perimeter corner and he's 2-3 years from now a Pro Bowler and you're like, son of a bitch. They got him at 14. How do they do this all the time? That would not surprise me at all. As soon as if they make that pick, I'm gonna be like, damn it, he's healthy and he's fine. I just and otherwise he slips to 29 or the Chiefs do it and you're like, oh, Chiefs did it, suckers. Yeah, I don't know. They're tough. They're a tough team. He's a tough ask, and that's why Patrick asked. So, all right, fellas. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us as always. Subscribe to the channel. Thumbs up on the video goes a long way in helping us continue to do all the cool free stuff we want to do. Take the time, come back on Wednesday. Again, we'll have some more extended thoughts. And again, we'll have another 48 hours of whispers, rumors, and stuff to recap. Again, we're going to put pencils down on Wednesday night. So we'll have, I think, some more concrete decisions on what we're betting on and where those final mocks are going to look as we submit. So don't forget to follow Scott on Twitter, Scott Smith FF. Again, lots of great content coming out. Connor Allen at Connor Allen NFL as well. And we'll be back on Wednesday. Thanks, everybody.